So as I've been watching people come in, I have a bit of a water metaphor going in my mind right now, and it felt like people were coming in on their little boats into the stream of our cloud zendo here. So let's go ahead and begin with a sit, and then we'll meet for conversation after that. Let's recite the verse of the robe. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. Wearing the universal teaching, I realize the one true nature, thus harmonizing all being. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. Wearing the universal teaching, I realize the one true nature, thus harmonizing all being. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. Wearing the universal teaching, I realize the one true nature, thus harmonizing all being. Ah. I said to Jessica as I came on that doing offering inquiry 2 weeks in a row, I got a bit of a taste of what Flint lives with every week in considering what he wants to offer. And here we go. So this past week, I've been giving a lot of thought to how my practice in our Buddhist practice and our Zen with Zen guidance helps in considering the troubles and difficulties in the greater world. I've been wanting to make sense of things in the face of my resistance, actually, to the way things are, especially with the warring and the terror actions causing so much trauma and suffering. And that's not this isn't the first time that this has happened or that I've had this kind of response, but something has felt much closer to home to me here. I have 2 family members who are traveling in the Middle East right now. So I know that my agitation is a bit stronger about this. But I've been chanting the verse of the robe every day, emphasizing different words to see if I might understand the truth of life more deeply. The chant, though, that has been helpful for me the most, from slipping into the ditch of delusion and even despairing in my lack of power in moments, is the chant of repentance. All my ancient, tangled, or twisted karma from beginningless greed, hate, and delusion, born through body, speech, and mind, I now fully avow. That word beginningless, of course, points to the human conditions we all create and have been creating down through time. I almost get embarrassed when it's clear that my thoughts, that it should be different, that we should be able to make it different, grab my attention, and I am pulled into the eddy of delusion in this river of life. To help myself out, I also made a list of some of the most common terms of teachings we received to see if anything could help me settle my nervous system. Here's my partial list of terms and teachings. I don't want to overwhelm us at all, but it just seemed like the right thing to do, to find something to ground in. So here are some of the terms, or the phrases: empty of intrinsic inherent existence, dependent origination, interdependence, perfection of wisdom, prajna paramita, compassion, boundless mind, bodhicitta, the awakened heart, Buddha, awakening, nirvana, relative and ultimate truth, no birth and no death, causes and conditions, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the precepts, the Bodhisattva vow, the paramitas, good moral conduct, meditation and mental development, wisdom and insight. That's as I said, partial list, and there is so much more for us to consider as we practice and learn together. I'm not a scholar. And I don't even pretend to understand most of the terms that I just read. I'm curious about them, and I continue to study them and talk to Flint about them and with anybody in my Sangha about them. But as terms from the scholar perspective, what really matters to me is practice, is how can I practice? How can we practice? How can we encourage each other in practice? That's what really means a lot to me. As I said earlier, I don't want to confuse or overwhelm us with too many aspects of what is part of our Buddhist practice. This gathering of teachings feels more like a foundation we can stand on as we practice in the face of life being as it is. Last week, Rosemarie talked about Thich Nhat Hanh's poem, Please Call Me by My True Names. I'm so grateful to you, Rosemarie, for bringing that forward. It's been in my heart all week. I think actually it can support us in being present with the whole picture of life as it is, the beauty and joy, the horror and suffering, the truth of no intrinsic separate self, the truth of all being that we are. So at this point, I want to share the poem for us to read through and see what arises for you. And then we'll have a conversation about it, I hope. Okay, can you see that all? So I'll read it through, and then we'll read it. Then I'm going to ask you to read it with me and make any note, either mental note or if you want to write it down. Go ahead, and then we'll see what arises. So Tai said, please call me by my true names. He wrote this in 2004, by the way, when a lot of things were going on in the world. Please call me by my true names. Don't say that I will depart tomorrow. Even today, I am still arriving. Look deeply every second I am arriving. To be a bud on a spring branch, to be a tiny bird with still fragile wings, learning to sing in my new nest, to be a caterpillar in the heart of a flower, to be a jewel hiding itself in a stone. I still arrive in order to laugh and to cry, to fear and to hope. The rhythm of my heart is the birth and death of all that is alive. I am a mayfly metamorphosing on the surface of the river. I am the bird that swoops down to swallow the mayfly. I am a frog swimming happily in the clear water of a pond, and I am a grass snake that silently feeds itself on the frog. I am a child in Uganda, all skin and bones, my legs as thin as bamboo sticks, and I am the arms merchant selling deadly weapons to Uganda. I am the 12-year-old girl, refugee on a small boat, who throws herself into the sea after being raped by a sea pirate. And I am also the pirate, my heart not yet capable of seeing and loving. I am a member of the Politburo with plenty of power in my hands, and I am the man who has to pay his debt of blood to my people dying slowly in a forced labor camp. My joy is like spring, so warm, it makes flowers bloom all over the earth. My pain is like a river of tears, so vast it fills the four oceans. Please call me by my true names, so I can hear all my cries and laughter at once, so I can see that my joy and pain are here together. Please call me by my true names, so I can wake up and the door of my heart could be left open, the door of compassion. So I'll go I'll go through the poem again and I'll make some comments, and then And then I'll hope to open it up. Please call me by my true names. Don't say that I will depart tomorrow. Even today, I am still arriving. This is a mind bender, I think. And I studied in a Thich Nhat Hanh Sangha for a while, a few years actually, and my experience of Thai's teachings were that he wanted our minds to bend. He wanted to disperse all of our delusional thinking and be in a very different way based on the truth of life. So he goes on and says, look deeply, that invitation to look deeply. Every second I am arriving as a bud, as a tiny bird, as a caterpillar, as a jewel, everything in nature, nothing is left out. The invitation is to laugh and to cry, to fear and to hope, to accept birth and death as the whole circle of life. There isn't any other way. He goes on to describe it even deeper as a mayfly, going through the process of coming to life, and then as the bird that needs to eat and so swallows the mayfly, and the frog that is swimming happily in clear water in a pond, and the snake who needs a meal as well. And then he comes into the human experience, the child starving, and he names Uganda, but we could easily name Gaza and other warring countries in the world, especially in Africa, where children are starving, where the focus of the government is on arms, is spending the money for arming themselves and not for feeding its citizens. Or the 12-year-old girl raped by a pirate, and then to recognize we are the pirate, that there is no other. I especially appreciate his explanation of the pirate, the heart not yet capable of seeing and loving. How somebody can take an action like that has to do with the state of the heart and mind. He continues with acknowledging politics and the greed of power in the hands of a few that affect the citizens, and the citizens become the victims of the power. So he goes on to say, my joy is spring so warm, it makes flowers bloom all over the earth. My pain is like a river of tears so vast it fills the four oceans. I so appreciate Thai's acknowledging the pain of the grief of all of the losses that here, at least in the West, we have a hard time acknowledging grief and pain, and the kind of suffering that comes with it. So for him to give us this metaphor of a river of tears so vast it fills the four oceans gives us something to contemplate. Please call me by my true names so I can hear all my cries and laughter at once, holding it all, holding it fully, so that I can see my joy and pain are one. All being is all experience. It's not divided or separated. Excuse me. We're not divided or separated. It's not us and them, myself and you and other. It's all being. So he closes with, please call me by my true name so I can wake up. Wow, we can wake up facing this, and that the door of our heart could be left open, the door of compassion. I don't know about you, but sometimes I want to close the door of my heart, even as I look across the room and the door that's open so my kitty can come in and out. I want to close that door sometimes. It doesn't feel like it's tolerable. And sometimes we might need to do that for a bit of time in order to regroup, refuel, get our balance back again. In those moments that we've lost our balance. So open it up now for us to have a conversation. What's come up for you as you've considered, how do we face life as it is when we're bombarded, in a sense, with everything that's happening? And I know we have to be careful so that we don't get overwhelmed. But here we are, practicing together, facing the world as it is. So I want to open it up to you for your comments, for what's arisen for you, for any questions you have. I'm so grateful to be here with you today, to be able to talk about this. Hello, Ed.
Good morning or hello.
That's okay. I know it's morning where you are.
Yeah,
Yes.
I still forget. So wonderful to see you.
So good
Um,
to see you.
Thank
Mhm.
you so much for your talk today, as it is not only topical but important. Even if our times were different, this is still something quite important
Mhm. Mhm.
because what Thich Nhat Hanh wrote has applied for years prior to this day, and unfortunately, it's probably going to apply for years after this day.
Mhm. Mhm.
The thing that seems to be problematic is trying to keep that sensibility, that compassion, that metta, and not to get trapped in valuation and making the right and wrong, making somebody right and somebody else wrong.
Mhm.
Um, and of course, being in conversations with people, I've had some issues sometimes with somebody saying, you need to be able to identify who's the good guy, who's the bad guy here.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
all of it in a certain way is bad human behavior,
Mhm.
for the things that are conflicts.
Mhm.
And it's the struggle of what is that tightrope? How do you walk that tightrope of being able to have compassion, have understanding, but not be caught or stumble in the in the mess of applying values of right and wrong.
Mhm. 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 Ed, what helps you? What helps you keep your heart open but also safe?
What helps me individually is my relationship to things,
Mhm.
and to everything kind of. I can look at something and I can know the things that I want to engage with, the things that I don't want to engage with. I see the wonder and the beauty and the amazement of what's out here in the world, whether it's through the photography
Mhm.
or through writing with the poetry, or just sitting and meditating.
Mhm. Mhm.
You're in Zazen, and the sound of birds coming through the window will just bliss you out and bliss me out.
Mhm.
um, it's
Mhm.
free and it's legal too, so that's great.
Yes, yes, yes,
Um, those are
yes.
things that help keep my attention focused, and also just knowing that there is no right answer that I can provide when I'm asked, what's right, what's wrong, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, what
Mhm.
action should be done,
Mhm.
and trying to literally live in that middle way.
Mhm. Mhm. Thank you for your wonderful teaching. I think, we're at a time where we need all the help we can get.
Mm.
And, your reference to the beauty of the world, here in the Midwest, it's full fall season. And right outside my meditation room window is a 30-foot tall serviceberry tree. And
Mm.
it's in its full pink orange glory,
Nice.
just before the leaves will fall. And I walk in every morning and I'm startled, I'm stunned. But and I'm glad I still have that kind of response to it and not just take it as oh yeah, the trees are turning color, da 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 da, kind of thing. Because it is the world showing up in its full beauty and glory. No question about it. And we're also very aware of the horrors of things.
Yeah.
One of the best, you referenced, the danger of asking who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. One of the best pieces I've read about this is by President Obama. It was on,
Yeah.
put it on Instagram last night. It's a 4-page piece about the Middle East, about the Israeli Gaza situation, where he wasn't looking for good bad guys. And
Mm.
no matter how you feel about Obama, I think, we need to be reading these things. We need to know that there's people out there who are thinking about this in a very different way rather than the dichotomy of good and bad.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for your teaching
Um,
and bringing that forward.
Thank you.
Mhm. Mhm. Mm. Hello, Joel.
Hi, Suzanne. Thank you so much for this. And thanks for this wonderful poem from Thich Nhat Hanh. Whenever I've read this before and I get a sense of um it's an overwhelming feeling just from the call me by my true name, since they include everything. How is the respondent, the person he's talking to know and to say them all, and and that it's a pleasant overwhelming, it's a way of acknowledging that we have good and bad in all of us, that we have compassion available to us when we can draw on it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I'll say that the conflict in Israel and Gaza has dominated conversations that I've been involved in. I don't know if you get Appamata um, emails, but it's been a topic of
Mm.
uh, uh, intense discussion over the last week that was triggered by a very forthright and very uh, uh, compassionate, I would say, coming out of compassionate uh, feelings from a member of the Austin Sangha, and has gone back and forth and on and on. And for myself, my problem with opening to compassion for all beings is that it looks like inaction.
Mm.
It looks like doing nothing.
Mhm.
And my response has been to read as much as I can stand, to
Mhm.
watch as many of videos as I can titrate,
Mhm.
about death and the death of children and the death of bystanders and so on. And then to go and to be active in my community,
Yes.
and to be to remember that there are needs in my community that have nothing on the surface to do with this conflict, and
Mhm.
that I feel like there's nothing I can do beyond witness with this conflict.
Mhm.
But I went yesterday, and I was was actually assisting a wonderful teacher at a program in Albuquerque called Saranam, that is, from the chants that we say during intensives, refuge.
Right.
And it is a program that focuses on helping families with young children or families with children
Mhm.
uh, to end homelessness. for
Mm,
families with young
mm,
children. It provides
mhm,
housing and so on. And
mhm,
there are 2 days a week when they provide family time, when the kids get together and play games
mhm,
and sing songs together and work with their parents on doing lots of things that it's impossible to do when you're living on the street.
mhm.
And I went and I assisted the teacher with that yesterday. And
Wow.
several of the kids had meltdowns and were crying so loud that the program really